join me in the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the secretary please call the roll?
President Mason.
Present.
Vice President Andrews. Present. Director Lassagne.
Present.
Director Mitchell. Director Wenta. Student Representative Parikh.
Present.
Student Representative Palat. Present.
Thank you. And Dr. Cohn, would you please introduce tonight's agenda?
Yes, consistent with the plans established at your 2017 Summer Planning Workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. Tonight there's a segment for routine business, a segment for board comments, a segment for strategic progress reporting, one for information items, one for new business, and one for upcoming agenda items. No changes have been made since publishing the agenda. The superintendent's report will be updating during the meeting, as is customary. The board may elect to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members. Just a quick reminder that this is your new agenda format and sequence. So board comments come up early in the agenda, and we're trying to keep not only on track, but maybe finish early because you've got the opportunity to visit Everett High's High School and Beyond tonight. That'll be it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as published?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Director Lassagne and seconded by Director Andrews to accept the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, Section 5.0 recognition. There are no recognitions this evening, so we will move to public comment.
There are no requests for public comment this evening.
Okay, we may get to Everett High yet. Moving to Section 7.0, the consent agenda. Dr. Cohn, may you please introduce our consent agenda this evening?
The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items. These include, for example, meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently, but are of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report, one or more weeks before the board meeting when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider a discussion about the policy implication of an item. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of two directors, the item is placed in new business and we renumber automatically the remaining items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion, and by definition, the consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no comments or questions regarding the items. Therefore, we present the consent agenda for your approval this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved by Director Andrews and seconded by Director Lassagne to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in new business section of the agenda? Hearing no request, we will move to the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Okay, I have a clarifying comment on our new agenda. We talked about at our summer workshop about moving board comments up in the agenda so that we weren't here late in the evening, and sort of change the format a little bit to talk more about some of the activities that we've been engaged in throughout the period between board meetings. And we didn't talk about student representatives, or I don't recall whether that was a part of this section. Yes. Or, Okay, so student representatives, this would be, now with the new format change, this would be an opportunity where you might share something like you do at the end of the meeting, something going on in your school or in the district that you were able to participate, or outside of the district, whatever you choose. So because I'm springing this on you, I'm going to move to Director Lassane first and have her go ahead.
I have no comments this evening. Thank you.
Director Andrews.
I have no comments this evening.
Hey.
I feel the pull of High School and Beyond.
High school and beyond.
Any comments for you this evening? And for you? Wow. Well, I have a comment. It's a brief one, though. I just wanted to share, this is not direct business of the district, but I had the opportunity to attend a parents' weekend at my son's new college. In fact, Sergeant Reeves and I were on the same airplane on the way home doing the same thing. He must be outside. So we got to talk about losing children together. But it was really fun because they have a brand new 4-story library on campus. And it is a beautiful, beautiful building. And I'm just so glad that it actually got done this year and not the year my son graduates, which often happens. But there were a couple things that I noticed, which I just kind of wanted to reflect on because it's very much in line with the things we talk about in our facilities now. And first of all, tons of natural light, floor to ceiling windows. Now, they do look at the Rockies, so if you guys could arrange that, that really adds to kind of a moment when you're standing there. And then the furniture and the flexible learning spaces, all over the library, they had cubbies for groups to go into rooms and close the door. Everything from 4 chairs to 6 chairs to 12 chairs around. And of course, they all had screens in the room. But I think the thing that impressed my husband and I the most as we wandered through these 4 floors is the lack of books in this library. I mean, there really were no books. There were a couple floors that had a couple stacks here and there, and the computers were vast. They were everywhere. Just very interesting to see the way that it transforms. You know, we probably, most of us in this room, aside from these two here, think about libraries as these old buildings full of, you know, floor to ceiling stacks of books, and it's not that way anymore. So very interesting, just kind of fun thing to observe after all the conversations we've had here. So that is my comment for the evening, which I guess moves us on to the superintendent's report, which is sort of your comments for the evening.
Absolutely correct. So superintendent's report tonight is brief as well. Thought we'd start out with a really neat picture. This is at Monroe Elementary, and this is a watchdog event for dads, dad equivalents and their kids. And this is a really fantastic growth experience for Monroe in terms of the participation. 100 dads or father figures and their kids participated in a pizza dinner at the school. And I think, we say the goal of the program is to connect dads and dad equivalents to their kids and such, and the school. They also engage in a lot of activities and a lot of support with kids on the playground and other settings. And it's a wonderful security improvement, safety improvement for the school as well. So I thought you would enjoy this particular picture. After school activities, clubs in full swing at this time of the year. We've got a lot of activities, especially at the elementary level. Programs are designed to provide a safe place for kids after hours and engage them in enrichment opportunities and activities to support their learning. These photos show some of the great things that are happening. Oh, let's see. I have to advance this because I've got great pictures for you here. These photos show some of the great things that are happening at Madison Elementary School and at a back-to-school dinner and math activities, challenging math activities, and robotics and all that sort of business. And I think, let me do this again. This is after-school activities, and there aren't any additional slides on this one. this is fall sports at middle schools and high schools. There
is
are
an
extra
after-school
pictures,
activity,
which are also after school. That's true. Fall sports well underway at our secondary levels. High school sports this year: football, boys and girls cross country, girls soccer, girls swim and dive, boys tennis, girls volleyball. Middle school sports: boys and girls cross country, football, and girls fast pitch. Approximately 942 youngsters involved at the high school level, and approximately 632 as of the last count at the middle school in fall sports. Just a note as well, it's not fall sports, but I just want to remind you, we are again this year supporting soccer clubs at all of our elementaries and all of our middle schools, and this will be the second year for WIA competitive soccer at those middle schools. Really excited about the number of kids who are involved in that. Again, high school and beyond this week. We've got Everett High School tonight, 5 to 7:30. Jackson tomorrow, 5:30 to 8:30. Cascade on Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30. We will bring students and their families in. I think we still bus, as far as I know, we still bus to this program from the feeder patterns. We provide some dinner for folks and translators and fantastic speakers, and I know you're going to have a good time with that tonight. Cascade High School, the turf is nearing completion. We're behind because of the drainage approval issues with the city of Everett. The contractor has installed a new access to the water quality vault, and crews are working on installation of the turf very, very soon. Should be completed in the coming weeks. Crews are also working on installation of components for safety and security at Hawthorne and Silver Firs Elementary. Fencing is going to be installed at Silver Firs on Friday, and the new access control and intercom system installations that we're piloting are going to follow in the next week. We expect to finalize the card reader portion of the program for both schools by November. Here's a list of the school visits this past month. Multiple points of double visits or triple visits. A couple of visits to watch the one-to-one rollout that I think I mentioned last month. And one of the visits to Jackson High was to participate in the NAACP Allied event. That's the superintendent's report this evening. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that you know we put in front of you a printed copy of the Jackson High School TEDx speaker, who we actually know.
It was a really good article. I hope you're very proud. I'm sure your parents are too. Yeah. Nice job. Okay. Well, I think we have our integrated technology plan gang back up with us here. So we're moving on to section 9.0, strategic progress monitoring. And tonight we get an update with all those computers that are now in students' hands. You guys haven't been busy, have you?
Yes, good evening. And Brian Beckley, Chief Information Officer. And joining me tonight are our directors, Joanne Budewig, Ken Toyne, and Scott Jenkins. And we're very excited to be with you tonight. There's a lot to celebrate. It's a very exciting time for us. And so getting a chance to be before the board and kind of share the good news and what's ahead is exciting for us. So a real time of celebration. And I think as a side note, the leadership of the three directors that I got a chance to join along with other people on the leadership team and seeing sort of come to life the vision of the integrated technology plan and begin to see it take shape. So appreciative of the voters and the public for approving this, and then the leadership and strength of this team and sort of moving it forward. And so getting a chance to share that with you tonight, it's very exciting. There are two attachments along with the presentation. The one, I'll just make note, the implementation process. We just had that there to sort of reference. You can see some of the language we'll talk about through the presentation, and you'll see the intentionality of how we've undertaken the year one of the integrated tech plan and what's ahead. And then also we referenced in the presentation the tech handbook, the student parent tech handbook. And so that's there is an attachment as well. That's for the one-to-one schools. So for next year, it would increase to Jackson and Cascade. So with that, go ahead and get started. We're going to touch base on three things this evening. The review of the integrated tech plan. We were with you in June, towards the end of June, and a lot's happened since then. So we want to give some time to update where we're at with the tech plan, including the summer work, the progress in the initial rollout, and then look forward to what is in store for the upcoming school year. This is our strategic plan goal areas that the integrated tech plan touches on, that cross-section of our entire strategic plan referenced there, showing the breadth of our plan. Our integrated technology plan goal areas we've reviewed this with the board previously, and we include this in our presentation because we organize our presentation around each of these goal areas. And so each of us will come forward and kind of share sort of updates and a look ahead on what's currently happening and took place over the summer in each of those areas. So that's there for reference as well. So it's our guide throughout all that we do. The first one I want to touch base on is the leadership component, and engaging a leadership team is vital to the success of the integrated technology plan. And there's various vehicles we list there, from the superintendent's leadership team to our work as a cabinet to the principal level meetings. Also, one specific example at Everett High School and Sequoia High School, we met with those leadership teams. So engaging the building level leadership team, so vital to the success of the integrated tech plan. And we met with Everett High School and Sequoia High School each week as we prepared for the rollout at their schools. And so very important in each of these different vehicles about how they can embed strategies of the integrated tech plan into their annual operating plan, into their department plans, into their SIP plans. We put an example in there of, on the operational level, that we have some real strength areas too that I'll highlight. This is the maintenance and operation folks, and in their work plan, they're very intentional about strategies to embed in technology into their work efficiencies. And then of course, looking for, once they have efficiencies, what are some things they no longer need, or tools they no longer need to utilize because of the efficiency with that. Another one is our food service team. Really strong leadership there about reaching out, about embracing technology and how it can make them more efficient. We also are continuing to adopt an increase in digital platforms. More and more curriculums will become more digitized. Including supplemental resources, operational systems, and we have a selection process in place about ensuring that fits within our district infrastructure requirements. And so we continue to look at what's out there, what are we currently using, and the process involved about what we adopt and what we support, and engaging the leadership team in that is critical. The collaborative online collaboration, the leadership team is vital in the success of that. The picture you see there is one example, because online collaboration can look various ways. It could be student to student, it could be teacher to student, teacher to teacher. This happens to be a student using OneNote and taking notes in one of our high school classrooms. I believe this was at Everett High School, and the teacher sent us as one example of various ways their students are interacting with each other and with her using online collaboration tools, and in this case, the class notebook. And we will continue to look for engaging the leadership team on moving from single software purchases to more of a more subscription model, which is going to continue to be a wave of the future.
So as we look at the goal area of teaching, it's actually very exciting to see how all of our professional developments are embracing technology. So in all of our content leadership, our directors, our facilitators are embedding this into their work. So as teachers are getting content level, they're also experiencing how to make that leverage into more authentic learning experiences for our students. We also look to the Enduro learning from last year. We're starting to see evidence in our classrooms of our teachers implementing and making that shift. You're seeing definitely substitution and augmentation happening and starting to build into modification. It's embedded in our curriculum maps. And we're doing it as a culture. So our new teachers are being brought on board, Jeff Utek introducing SAMR in that initial session, but also our maintenance staff, our other work groups are being introduced to what it means to live in a digital age. Our librarians have worked and developed K-12 lessons in digital citizenship to embed throughout the year as common themes. And then the best success so far has been our 2 instructional facilitators. So the teachers brought the learning to the table and now they're trying it out. So Camelin Taffa and Jen Chambers are right at the ready and job embedded and in their classrooms with them, modeling, coaching, and really making sure that our students are engaged in that content and utilizing the technology in very productive ways. So that's been a very exciting experience to see. As we look at our other places, if we remember in Project Red, part of the implementation factors is making sure that we have research-based digital intervention programs. So our Language Live implementation is a good example of that, of leveraging technology, but also having face-to-face with teachers in small groups, large groups, and then personalizing learning through the digital platform. We also are expanding our collaboration environment, which is very exciting. Our librarians are another group that have taken off. They host Google Hangout sessions when they can't travel to get together. They're now doing co-learning through that, leveraging that tool as well. And then we have new ways to do classroom management. So we're piloting a program called Class Policy at our one-to-one schools. And this is a way for teachers to efficiently launch websites at the beginning of periods, to be able to highlight certain students' work as they're going through their curriculum. And it's a now digital management tool rather than just simply a practical tool within the classroom. And then we look to our learning that's going on, and it's happening in all of our work groups and our classrooms. By doing the internet filtering by grade bands, our high school students have a door open, and it's amazing how they're finding things on YouTube of how to do things. Even I watched a student the other day learn how to use their graphing calculator, leveraging YouTube video. So that access is giving them the ability to help also do things for themselves. We have the teachers as learners. We had our initial learning improvement days. There was a lot of technology being taught by many of our different disciplines. But this summer we had 204 participants in 41 sessions that were just technology dedicated, as well as hundreds who participated in the content area PD sessions where technology was integrated as well. And then we have launched 13 new digital platforms in the last 6 weeks. One of them including our new ELA curriculum for our K-5 students with the Reach for Reading, our secondary platform. And we even have a K-2 database so that students can early learn research skills with materials that have been vetted and are age appropriate for them. So there's a lot of activity happening. My department's having a lot of fun and keeping busy. And then our assessment area, we've been able to leverage technology to focus on those measurement of quality assessments, but actionable research, data that we can respond to. So we have an iReady pilot that's happening in literacy and math. We are looking to expand our ability to offer different kinds of assessment items and get more immediate feedback. So we're leveraging our Canvas our Instructure Canvas course management tools. And then we are looking to performance tasks that both blend content standards with 21st century skills. And so we have some work happening with a program called Define STEM, which blends those two together in performance tasks. So all this is maintaining our commitment to maintain an inventory of devices for our practice and our online SBA assessments. So we're balancing both the platforms with the need for the technology to give our students the experiences they need.
So to address our outreach activities, we continue to enjoy the support of our technology partners, namely Lenovo, Toshiba, Microsoft, and our most recent partner, Sprint. Speaking of Sprint, we have received the actual units for the devices for kids to use at home. What we were calling a puck is now like a Star Trek communicator. We've deployed about 287 of those since yesterday. So 287 households without or with limited internet access now have access via these devices. We continue to work closely and appreciate that valuable feedback from our Technology Advisory Council. as well as the work that we get with a lot of resources related to their feedback in terms of how to address ongoing concerns and issues related to this rollout. We've also put together a specific website for the one-to-one deployment for both the schools that have some nice online resources that help both the students and parents, as it includes a link to the technology handbook that we've developed. Looking at the infrastructure activities, we've spent the summer doing some updates to our student information system, the gradebook product, and there's a new app for mobile devices that allow our parents and guardians to look up and review student information. We spent the summer at Sequoia and Everett High School doing the Wi-Fi and network upgrades. We replaced all the old Wi-Fi technology with brand new high-performance gear. The gear is in each and every classroom at this point. Before that, it was spread around rather strategically, but not in every single classroom. So now every classroom has access to a high-speed, what we call an access point, as well as some additional Wi-Fi in the common areas of the schools. To support that work, we did some enhancements to our data security systems, primarily in the data center, and then the Toshiba devices specifically. So as they take those devices home, they have the same technology security applications applied to them at home as well as in the school district. At the same time, we did a voicemail upgrade, and we're in the middle of an RFP for a telephone system upgrade you'll hear more about in the future.
The integrated technology plan calls for sufficient qualified technical personnel to be able to support the one-to-one initiative. And we're fortunate enough to be able to hire those staff early on and have them become very familiar and establish relationships with the schools before the onslaught of the devices. And that has worked really well because they are both very integrated as far as the community and the staff in those schools. In fact, I believe Chris here at Everett High is voted the most popular guy on campus now. He's really well received and well desired. So that's worked very well. During the summer, we were able to use our student workers to reposition current technology as well as deploying new to outfit the elementary schools with their one-to-one carts. Our team evaluated each of the reposition carts, the devices, made sure that they were working well, got repairs if needed, and performed all the relabeling and moving and resetting of them in the new, so they're ready for school when they begin, when the kids arrived. While that was happening out at the sites, here at the CRC, we received the initial onslaught of those new devices, and this is where we set them up and provisioned them. And once they were provisioned, the student workers took them in the vans, moved them out to each site, to Sequoia and to Everett High. And then we thought about what it would look like to have those boxes go out and have the students unbox the devices and everything, and decided that wasn't a good idea. So we were able to get some tubs or little carts to store them in, and this is what it looked like to unbox several of them, and that would have been in classrooms. So we did that all beforehand, got it cleaned up, and when it was done, the devices themselves were in crates, they were set up, they were ready to go out to the classrooms. It was a much better way to do it, and much more efficient and clean in the classrooms. At Everett High School, we are very grateful to the language arts teachers who allowed us to invade their classrooms for several days and simultaneously in 5 different rooms able to work in our teams to deploy and set up training and device overviews for the students. In those sessions, the Learning Management Systems team member at each of those was able to give an introduction to the students, walk them through what the device was like, some of the tools they could use, the inking during those things. Students were completely engaged. I was amazed that they could do this for 3 straight days, 6 periods a day, and just still keep up their energy. They did an amazing job. During that time, our student workers and our techs were able to roam through these classrooms and help the students who needed advice, like Allegra here on the right was able to sit down with a student who had problem inking and show her the inking thing. So we were able to work with the students, give help when needed, and it went really, really smoothly. We're grateful to the teachers and the staff at Everett High for setting it up so well for us. Sequoia was different, and it was going to be different. With their 10-day intake process, it wasn't just passing them out and getting them ready. And we wondered how this was going to work. And Kelly Shepard, working with her, came up with a very great idea. They have a 10-day intake period, and she wondered, what if we had the devices in the rooms, just kind of like cart computers. They wouldn't take them home, they just use them during the intake process. And we walked through this, and that was very doable. So then it allowed her to evaluate her intake process and look at different ways that the kids could actually begin using these devices during intake. Where before they would just do handwritten things, they're doing online submissions for intake. So it worked very well in two different ways. The kids got really used to the devices. They were able to she was able to make her intake more efficient. And then at the end of the intake process, we were able, the LMS team worked during that intake process with the staff to do a train the trainer model. So instead of the LMS team providing the training, the Sequoia staff did. And after that, the students were able to get the devices and take them home the next day. So that worked out really well too. We'd like to share a quick little video with you that Cody Hendrickson and the communication staff did so well. Some interviews with kids at Everett High School. And even though it's at Everett High, it represents what we hear at Garfield or hearing at Lowell or hearing at Monroe, and we're hearing at Sequoia. And it's amazing to hear the student voices. So we wanted to share that with you because it's pretty darn powerful.
I'm excited most about being able to take my own notes and be able to write without using a notebook. And since I've started using it, it's been super easy and a lot of fun to work on it.
I think the technology will benefit the classroom by allowing more students access to the internet so they can do their homework quickly, and so they can just have better access to different tools that can help their education.
You can keep all of your notes on one thing and share them with your teachers and just make it easier for everyone involved.
We just got full access for all our students to our online textbooks. They have everything online. They can do the activity, download it into our folders. So a lot of it is auto grade. It's going to make the workload easier. I can really see that.
And I noticed a lot of engagement. So they can actually pop in their headphones and listen to the recording at their own pace and rewind and like slow it down, things like that.
And that's going to be so beneficial in languages because they can really, there are kids that's like, my listening, speaking is great, it's the writing. Where others, it's like, I just need to hear it and hear it and hear it. And so they get to personalize their own instruction.
I think this kind of keeps me more organized because you just make a folder and everything is in that folder and you never lose anything because it's just saved there automatically. And I think as a student, it will really help me kind of get my homework done easier and be able to get focused in on things.
Well, for guitar class, we've mostly been using it with their curriculum in class. We've been using OneNote and having all their stuff in there. And I really like the ability for kids to kind of copy and paste into their own notebooks and write in the notes, or to ask for clarification and I can look at it and respond back, or it just creates this nice opening for communication. And then I can link so many different videos or articles or resources in there too that they can quickly and easily access, and then they don't have to go searching for it on their own. With my band classes, where kids are a little bit more advanced musically, I'm hoping to incorporate some composition and some music theory where they can kind of begin to create their own music in a way that is much more accessible than trying to do it on pencil and paper. So you give them that opportunity in composition and they jump into it right away without that kind of fear of messing up as much.
This is going to be a big game changer for helping them to be career and college ready, because every college, every career, there's some form of use of technology. And if they haven't had that full hands-on individually like this, we're not really preparing them. So this is a great big step.
So again, thank you to the communications department for their work in partnering with us and putting that together. The exciting thing about watching the use at Everett High School and at Sequoia, with the student devices. You saw in that video clip what we see in classrooms all the time. Students use it in tablet mode, they use it in laptop mode. You saw students working together and collaborating. You saw students using the digital inking pen. And this is just, they've had the device for really just a few weeks. So we're really excited about the potential that this device is. As the teacher shared, it's a real game changer. So we're really excited about that. A few things on the horizon. One is not really on the horizon. It's now a reality, is the integrated technology website. It's already linked on our district website relatively recently, so it's under district information on our homepage. So I invite you to check that out. Some exciting and great tool for us to connect with our community and our staff with the integrated technology pieces of information. There's just a lot there. Our data dashboard is an upcoming project we'll continue to work on. The goal is to have our public-facing community dashboard here in the next several weeks. We've selected a vendor that we're going to be using, and they're going to be partnering with us in the next few weeks about putting together our dashboard and having that on our website ready to go. So that will be part of our next update to the board, is what that looks like. And of course, we're already connecting with Jackson and Cascade High Schools, starting to meet with their administrative and leadership teams, getting ready for their deployments, already reviewing lessons learned from our last deployment, and already forward planning with the next team. The answer for the internet home access for middle school has still not been answered. We're still looking for strategic partners to help us with that. We've answered the high school with Sprint, but that is not a middle school program. It is a high school only program. So we are already, even though middle school is down the road a couple of years, we know that's going to take us some work. So we're looking for what the answer to that question. Windows 10 upgrade, we're going to go site by site. We've learned a lot from some of our experiences, and so Scott and Ken and their teams are going to go sort of site by site in a team approach over the next several months, upgrading to Windows 10 across the district. That's going to be a big project for us. The integrated technology for authentic learning, you see the cohorts listed there. We'll stay connected with our schools from last year that currently have the one-to-one devices, and then connect with the next cohort schools. In fact, that's going to start here in the next week or so. We also continue our professional development with the technology department, partnering with teaching and learning for learning improvement. We have one coming up Friday, opportunities for learning with staff. We have teacher roundtables that we'll continue to offer, where teachers gather to talk about technology and best practices and learn from each other. And the LMS team will continue to lead those this year. We'll have several opportunities for parent and student outreach. We have our parent night, like we did last year with Jeff Utek and his team. That will be on February 28th. We'll continue to put out information for you on that. And our Uduro Learning, the group that does that parenting night with Jeff Utek, they have an online parent portal that's offered 24/7 for free of charge for our parents in the community. And so we continue to advertise that and promote that. And I think Jeff might have shared some of that information with you at the board workshop. But that's a great resource for our parents too, and supporting their students. Another parent outreach opportunity is our Innovation Expo on June 6th and at the Comcast Arena. A couple of student outreach, our Student Technology Summit. We didn't get a chance to do that as its own summit last year. We combined it with a parent. Didn't really like that format. We wanted to increase student voice in a separate day just for our students, and so that will be on March 7th. And we'll continue to have on-site at the school sites student forums where we're engaging and increasing student voice in our integrated technology plan and getting their feedback. So in our time with you today, we reviewed the tech goal areas and giving you some updates. We looked ahead to year 2, and we highlighted our next steps of the work that's ahead, the exciting work that's ahead, and the work that's already taken place. I would just like to add that this is not just the technology department that has been engaged in this, and we could not, the partnership with teaching and learning, the partnership with curriculum and assessment, the partnership with our operational department heads, that engagement of the leadership team has been vital. So we really appreciate this being a group team effort. And really, it's a celebration for all of us in finishing our first year and looking ahead to year 2. And with that, if you have any questions for us, we would be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. I just want to start by saying to you and to Joanne and Scott and Ken, you guys have done a phenomenal job. And I just want to say thank you. I know you have put out a million fires the past year, but on the outside, it just looked perfectly seamless. And it's the planning and the research and everything that you did along the way and the input from other people. But really, I just want to congratulate you. It's been what I would call a very successful rollout. And we were all a little nervous going into this year, not knowing how it all goes. But just good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, well, actually, I have a question. I'm going to start tonight. I guess my question is around a little bit, it's been fun because I have a student at home who is going through this process, so I get to ask a lot of questions. And, you know, every teacher is embracing it. Different subjects lend itself more to certain areas. The only complaint I've gotten is the internet access and how they can get, you know, trying to get on a museum website and it was blocked, which then a very long conversation between my son and my nephew, who has a master's in computer science. They had a good, robust 20-minute conversation about how to get around the internet access and the blockage of that. You know, everything from using cell phones to, you know, doing the divider on your computer and all that stuff, which I thought, you know, I don't think he's at the leading edge. There's certainly kids that are even better at him trying to figure that out. How do you refine that process? You know, he said that YouTube is good, but that's not really what they use a lot when they're doing research. It's more, you know, going to specific websites, and that might just be his particular classes. But how do you sort of help that evolve in a authentic way in terms of the right sites and the wrong sites? And
well, I might ask Ken to share a little bit about the internet filter. This is a little bit about the process of how we continue to refine the filter. As we shared last year, there's no perfect filter, and they will continue to find. But so that does continue to be a process that we refine. So maybe you can share a little bit about that. Thank you. You're welcome.
You know, the internet filter is a real challenge. As an organization, we're required by the feds to have a filter in place to protect kids from dangerous information. To be able to do that via a technology tool it sounds easier than it really is, especially when we're forced to categorize resources like museums. And then a museum site may have within it take advantage of another technology to supplement their site that I'm just thinking out loud here, that they may recognize as a video that may or may not have a source that this particular technology recognizes as safe or unsafe. So what we're having to do is really, now that we've more granular with our filtering, it's really a matter of a feedback loop. I mean, if we've done a certain level of opening of sites, now it's going to be a feedback loop where we get feedback saying, okay, we're still having trouble with a decent museum. We need to know what it is, we need to analyze it, and typically we just open it up. But at this point, early on, like with this granulation project, we just need to know more. We need to know more about the results of what we're doing. So if your student has an issue with the museum, they need to contact us via the help desk, via the teacher, say, look, this is a resource I need to do my work with.
Yeah. I guess so. There's a process in place for,
there is a process,
and then you evaluate.
The more we get back, the better the process or better the results will be.
There's just a couple of websites out there that you could be evaluating.
And there's probably lots and lots, actually.
A couple billion that you could just sift through and make sure they're all safe.
Yeah.
Thank you. Directors, do you have any other questions?
I have a couple, if I may. You mentioned SBA Chromebooks refresh. What does that entail, and will that require any additional resources that we haven't yet set aside and considered?
We have included in the planning and the budgeting a refresh cycle for our SBA Chromebooks. So the ones we bought 4 years ago that have now aged out. we are replacing those, and that was built into our budget. So there's not a need for additional resources. It's already built in into the plan. And then we're able to take, Chromebooks are pretty durable and last beyond the 4 years is just what's under warranty. And so we're keeping the usable ones that are beyond warranty, and we're going to use them as long as we can and keeping them in schools in front of students, but the refresh is just supplementing what is still usable.
Now,
But
can we use the new devices we received, the Protege, in order to do SBA, or will we have to move
No.
the Chromebooks back to the school for those schools?
students should be able to use their device for testing at Everett High School. So in that
That's-
case, there'd be no need to move any inventory or carts, or they'll just take it on their device once we, load the appropriate testing
Yes.
software, which we would push out to them.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That means
No, that is exciting.
we have gained some
Yes.
Chromebooks in the process because we
Yes.
can now move them to the other schools.
Exactly. We're moving closer and closer to no need to really move much inventory at all during testing. That will increasingly become a reality, which is exciting.
Excellent. And you also mentioned you're upgrading, in this year, you're upgrading the Wi-Fi at Everett High School. In slide number 12, it mentioned that. In the process, are we doing any kind of network and Wi-Fi upgrades at any of the other schools? To
Yes.
prepare for
Right.
the time.
So
right?
the next project will be at Jackson and Cascade High Schools. That will be the next Wi-Fi upgrades. We kind of have to do it in pieces. Our hope was to do it at once, but that didn't happen, and so we're kind of doing it project by project, piece by piece. So we need to expand the Wi-Fi and the network to get ready for adding all those users, the thousands of users that will be on those Wi-Fi ports.
And explain how parents could use Blackboard i5 app in order to see, or is that for parents, or is that for them to see grade books and,
Right.
grades and things like that? Is that what it's for?
Right, and so that at the board workshop, I know that Leanna shared a little bit about what that would look like and that sort of mobile connection with parents and that information. And so it's a way for the parents, another way for the parents to use technology to stay connected to the school and what's happening with their
Now, are we
students.
showing that on our website now, how parents should download that particular app and give them some kind of tool so they know beforehand how to
Right.
use it and access it?
Yeah, the information is on our website for parents to be able to
Okay.
know how to access that.
Thank you.
Is that rolled out? Is the app rolled out?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. No, I didn't, okay,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not rolled out to all parents yet.
Not
They're
yet,
still
just-
working on
Just
it.
at Everett and Sequoia?
Nowhere.
Or not anywhere?
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
We just got a preview.
Oh, we just got a preview. Oh,
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you for the update, and thank you for the video. It made it very real for me to see how instructors and students both are just embracing the technology. And I never thought about a computer in a music room, so that was just absolutely amazing. A couple questions. I'm wondering, again, thank you too for an extremely smooth rollout, but I'm wondering what were the surprises? Maybe just one example. Also, any sort of parent response you've had, or what has the parent response been to the kids having devices? And then lastly, how are we monitoring that the instructors are actually implementing, the instruction using the devices? I know it's early, but what's the process there?
Those are all really good questions. So the student use, the authentic use of the device for its, the accessing authentic learning experiences is, a lot of it is the classroom walkthroughs is when you go into a classroom and you're watching the students using the devices. So a lot of it will be really observational as we go into the classrooms and we see the hearing from the teachers and those teacher roundtables about how they're using that as best practice. We also want to include as part of our plan this year some student survey information to hear from the students about how they're using them in the classroom and have they how they've utilized that to be more engaged in their learning. We hear a lot from administrators and teachers sending us information, feedback. Just at Sequoia last week, Kelly asked her teachers, okay, we've had the devices for a while, what have you noticed in the classroom or how have you used it? And she sent us a list of feedback from the teachers about either things they saw or how it's changed their teaching and how they're utilizing it in the classroom. And they sort of shared that with each other and I think there's a lot of power in that, but that's also another way we're seeing it in action. And we'll continue to monitor that. Like you said, it's early, but it's very exciting what we've seen so far about how it's transforming learning in the classroom and how teachers, even some of the teachers that, were not really sure about this, were apprehensive, have just really been excited about how it's helped in the classroom.
I think the video also pointed out for me how it really does personalize learning. It's just, and I remember Jeff Utek talking about that, and you can just see it already.
Yeah.
It's so exciting, yeah.
And I would probably say the answer to your first question about what's been the most surprising is when at Everett High School in Sequoia, these were staff members that were cautiously optimistic, very nervous about this. And the excitement, even of almost from the first couple of days. So we did the deployment at Everett High School in Sequoia, and like by the next week in September, they're already sending us information, and even the teachers that were the most nervous about how excited and appreciative they were. And so I think that it was a pleasant surprise about how they so readily embraced and saw the power behind what this would mean for their students. And I think that is going to really help with our next round of deployment because, Cascade and Jackson are waiting in the wings, and you've got teachers at these two high schools talking about it's a game changer. Just wait, you're going to be it's just going to really help with this next deployment. We're excited about that piece.
Student representatives, do you have any questions or comments to add?
I just have a quick comment. So as you mentioned, developing an internet filter is very challenging because you can't possibly get everything right. But I think the tiering by the grade level bands, I think that's a really big step forward, especially because the needs and responsibility that you can give to elementary schoolers is very different from high schoolers, and I think that's something that would make a really big difference for having the internet filter fluid like that.
That was our hope.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the update. With that, we have a 10-minute break, and then we come back to an enrollment update. Let's reconvene at, let's see, we go to 6:30. Wait, I'm not adding very well here. 6:34? Is that what I'm looking at? 5:34. We are rolling through this meeting. Okay. 10-minute break. Thank you. Okay. We're back at it for an enrollment update with Mike Gunn, and I believe Jeff Moore is stepping in with some, no?
It's pretty much been Mr. Dunn.
Okay. Take it away, Mike.
Good evening. So tonight I will provide an update on the enrollment as of October 1st of 2017. This presentation tonight is actually a little bit earlier than we usually do it. Usually we will wait until we have the enrollment projections produced by our consultant Les Kendrick, and we also look at updating our capacity. So we'll usually get to presenting all of that to you about February. This year we've done it quite a bit early because we wanted to get this information in front of you as soon as we can. So I will be talking with you about the actual projections, and I'll make a caveat right now that the actual projections are a preliminary count because officially we turn in to OSPI the formal final count by October 13th. So within 3 days, we'll turn that into OSPI. Between now and then, there may be some slight adjustments in the counts that we are going to use. So with those comments, the first point I'd like to make is that enrollment implications in our school district are tremendous. So the staffing and budgeting are driven quite a bit by enrollment, which determines enrollment drives about 60% of our total general fund revenues. In the facilities and planning area, the capital bond and levy planning are driven by enrollment, as well as our boundary revisions, portable classroom decisions, property management acquisition of property, as well as the every 2 years we update our capital facilities plan, which is dependent on growth over the 6-year time frame of the plan, which in turn determines impact fees that we can collect from housing developments. In addition to all that, decisions about where we locate programs, special programs, as well as the approvals or denials of school transfer requests that we make, all of these are affected by enrollment. So it's really important. I know that you've seen a number of these slides a number of times. I'll just quickly walk through them with you. Over the last decade, the enrollment in our district has grown by more than 1,100 students, and we are projected to continue to grow. We are at this point, still considered one of the fastest growing school district in Snohomish County. 26 schools, at latest count, 115 portables. We have already ordered 13 portables for this next year, as well as to accommodate some of the changes in enrollment that we were experiencing in early September and October. And then we've ordered in that count also as 10 portables for North Middle School for the modernization program out there. So here we are. What you see, and it's actually I think it's a blue, but I'll call it a black. Les Kendrick does a high, medium, and low range projection, and you can see the spread there. OSPI is shown in green, and they predicted an enrollment of 19,979. The actual October 1 enrollment, preliminary count, which may go up just a little bit still, is 19,891, and that reflects a 121 vote, 121 enrollment miss from the medium range projection, which is what we use from Les Kendrick. So we target all of our projections on the medium range. Actually, technically, you could go from anywhere between the high and the low. So our actual projections, our actual numbers came in about 121 under projection. OSBI's numbers were actually about 88 off. So it's not very common, but every once in a while, OSPI is closer than Les Kendrick in the projections. This slide here shows the actual October 2016 by grade level, the counts, and then the projection that we had developed last spring for this coming October, and then the actual October 2017 numbers. So in addition to all that, the two far right-hand columns show the difference in the difference from the actual and then the difference from the projection. So the bottom line is we actually grew, as you can tell by the 163 number in the bottom, the second from the right-hand column there at the bottom. We grew by that much. We grew at 78 at the elementary level by 78. We grew by 190 at middle. We declined by 105 at the high school. Total growth of 163. We were under projections by 121. So we were 2 over projection at the elementary level, 30 over at middle, and 153 under at high school. I wanted to remind you, and you'll see it here in a minute with the enrollments that go through, when you see surges at elementary and middle, you just know it's going to hit at the high school within a few years of that. And I'll reflect back on that for you here in just a minute. This slide here shows 2 charts. One is the accuracy over time. The accuracy and the change over time. Accuracy, this is just to help you understand that over the last 9 years, I think there have been 4 times, as shown here, that our enrollment has been off by about as much as we are this year. I would still call 0.6% to be a virtual bullseye in terms of enrollment accuracy on roughly 20,000 students. The change over time is shown on the bottom of the slide, and I would direct you to about the middle of that chart where it says permanent capacity over or under. And I wanted to make a quick note here. Where you see a number in red, it means that it's under the projection or lower than we had predicted. So in the change over time chart, when you see those negative red numbers, it means that those are the numbers of students that we are over capacity in our permanent buildings. So I'll take where it says permanent capacity over or under 2016 on the elementary level row, it shows a negative 738. So what that means is in 2016, we were that many students over our elementary capacity system-wide. We were under capacity by 90 at the middle at school and 212 under capacity at high school. In 2017, we are over capacity at elementary and middle. 812 at the middle, 816 at the elementary, 100 at the middle. Still 316 under capacity at the high school. We predict by 2026, as you can see by all the red numbers, that we'll be over capacity in all grade levels. I wanted to make a note here, though, and that is that even though it shows high school under capacity at the time, that's a system-wide figure. At Jackson High School, I can assure you, we are well over the permanent building capacity at that school. So this is a look into the future, again, growing over the next 10 years by more than 1,600 students. Here's the chart where it shows, if you look on, especially at the high school number right now, because that's the biggest project coming up in our bond discussion soon. If you look at the difference between the 2016 to 2017 enrollment, it's relatively flat. You could even say it looks like a slight decline there. And I think that would be reflective of the actual numbers that we saw. And then, from now, basically, it's going to start, we believe, a high school trend that will be increasing, especially in the time frame of 2019 to 2023. Next steps, between now and February, we will be having our consultant produce the enrollment projections that he does every year. And then we'll use that from February through June, to determine our staffing levels for the next year. The budgeting parameters are all established by staffing and by enrollments, and then determine where we're going to go with variances for next year, program locations, portables, and all of that, and special program locations as well. In summary, enrollment numbers are very important in establishing general fund revenue, staffing, program locations, and facilities needs. And our district is continuing to grow, particularly at the elementary and middle school levels and in the south end of the district. And we are the fastest growing district, we can still say that, in Snohomish County. And that's my presentation.
Not sure that's something we want to keep having to say, but. Okay, directors, do you have questions regarding enrollment?
You know, if a number of our students went to the new North Shore High School by chance?
My understanding is yes. I've heard some conversations around that. I would say that Karen Buckman, who is not here tonight, she's from the budget office, she could get you more information on that. My understanding is that there were a number of students that got variances into that school. My understanding also is that within a couple of years, they're expected to be full, and I would expect at that time they would not be allowing variances anymore.
Mm-hmm. I had heard, just to add to that, and speaking with some South End parents, that there were a number of individuals who were able to variance in, and then they very quickly shut that down. And they are currently not, but that's through the parent network. Not sure exactly what fact is, but.
Yeah.
So, last I heard it was approaching.
Both in North Shore and Glacier?
Jackson kid's going to
the new high school.
New, North Creek High.
North Creek.
And I could be wrong, and I know Larry will correct me if I am. That high school has capacity? We have a number going both places. That's correct.
South End region is growing. In a few years, they may close both schools.
Well, actually, we've had some conversations with the Snohomish leadership, and they're definitely looking at what happens if they do that. They're talking about limiting, last I spoke with them, and but not canceling. No, they accept a lot of students from out of district, not just us, but.
But they grandfather those kids that are existing.
So there actually isn't a grandfather provision under the law. We sometimes historically have spoken about it that way, but those transfers, as we now call them, are an every year thing. So some districts' policy may be you can stay, and we had a similar policy, but it's actually an every year application process. Larry, anything? Okay.
Do you suspect that it contributed to the at the high school level the difference in the projection?
I think it had an impact. Also, as trends change, it is a challenge sometimes to predict those accurately. One of the trends that are changing, I think, is that we're sending more kids on to Everett Community College in Running Start, and we don't count those kids in our counts. So to the extent that that is the trend that is pulling kids, in a sense, out of our system, then we have to recognize that and build that into our projections.
They still count on our FTE.
Well, we don't get funding for them, and that's one of the big ways that we use enrollments is to predict what our staffing and we don't. So I would ask Jeff to answer that before I go any further.
Funding that goes to the You talk about running start. We get it goes through, flows through to the community college, and we have a 7% indirect that we utilize to administer the program.
So it does count in our FTE. We're not showing you those numbers. You can go, if you go to the OSPI website for the district enrollment, they will include those.
They will include, yeah, they still include those kids' numbers, even though they flow through us.
Yes.
But as far as, you know, our head counts per se, we're still responsible for them. As far as head count.
Responsibility is an interesting point. Head counts and FTEs can be different. And if they're enrolled full-time there, they'd be full-time there. If they're enrolled with us, they could be split. The head count would show at both places. Responsibility is a complex question, much more complex actually than the accounting.
Okay.
Especially when they stop being Running Start students just before commencement and need to make stuff up. Happens sometimes.
I'm looking at slide, or what it is, the enrollment outlook, 10, I guess. The elementary school, actually, projections drop until 2020, and then they start to go back up again. You know why it's projected to drop, decline?
No, these projections, again, we haven't updated the ones based on this year's count, so these are at least a year old. And so I would have to go back to that point in time to look and see. But we aren't including the projections in this part of the presentation today in terms of the reasons why. We'll get the updated projections from Les Kendrick mid to late November, and then we'll be using those in various ways, and certainly we'll be providing those to you in some form.
Yeah, I apologize. It's not really a very fair question. I just now noticed it looking at these at all. It's like, well, that's really odd, because I was noticing the elementary is really pretty flat out 10 years on the overcapacity compared to all the others that go up. But you would just think, since we're having a continually increasing enrollment, that elementary would just show a continual upward trend. Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
You're asking about the little
A little blip, yeah.
Yeah, well, Kendrick's information comes from several different sources, and those sources would be indicating a dip in entering students at that point, whether it's, just a variety. In fact, I think probably we can go back to a previous board report and find his report, can we not?
Absolutely, we can, from last February.
Send you that link so that you can see how he comes up with the numbers and why.
And he has, and Les has some pretty good executive summary style language at the beginning of the report where he talks about the trends and what is happening. We actually are planning to have him involved in our boundary adjustment process too, so we'll have an opportunity to visit with him even more about these.
Any other questions?
Can you provide, this being October 10th, and as far as knowing after the enrollment projections?
Ma'am, could you use your microphone? Thank you.
What would be the deadline, I guess, is my question, as far as making decisions as to how we would proceed in February? By what is the drop dead date at which, from what I understand, it's November time-ish?
Yes, November 21st is the board meeting where we have planned to have you consider approving a bond and levy resolution. The resolutions are actually due into Snohomish County, I think, December 13th or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Student representatives, do you have any questions regarding enrollment? Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Okay, that takes us to section 12.0 unfinished business, and we have no unfinished business this evening. We come to new business, and I believe Mr. Fleckenstein has 4 policy reviews for us.
Tonight for the board's consideration are the proposed revisions to policy 3221 student publications. The proposed revisions stem from the work of summer intern and former school board student representative, Mr. Scott Pease's review of the 3000 series of student policies. Revisions to this policy chiefly include the addition of our district's non-discrimination statement into the policy language and the addition of the cross-reference to policy 3210 non-discrimination. The superintendent's cabinet and district's legal counsel have reviewed this proposed policy revision prior to tonight's meeting.
Okay, are there any questions regarding this policy? With that, we'll move it to second reading. Thank you.
The proposed deletion of policy 3415 eye protection is also the result of Mr. Pease's summer review of the 3000 series of student policies. Policy language necessitating the use of safety equipment for students that is inclusive of eye protection is already embedded in policy 3420 student safety and its related procedure. The superintendent's cabinet and district's legal counsel have reviewed this proposed policy deletion prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions regarding the deletion of this policy? Okay, with that, we will move it to second reading.
The proposed deletion to policy 3419 student medical insurance requirement is also a result of Mr. Pease's review. Policy 3419 has become outdated, and the information that is contained in this policy can also be found in Procedure 2151P, Interscholastic Athletics and Activities on page 2, and Policy 6535, Student Insurance. The superintendent's cabinet and district's legal counsel have reviewed this proposed policy deletion prior to tonight's meeting.
Any questions?
I do have a question regarding the WIA's requirements for insurance. Do ours just mimic theirs? Is there any way in which one would be more lenient than the other, or there may be some confusion between parents, for kids in sports? Is there?
I would have to consult with Robert Polk, who'd be a little more familiar with WIA's insurance policies than I currently am right now and how they compare to ours. I can definitely get that answer for you.
Well, I just wanted to know if they were more lenient, and so someone could say, we fell back on the school district's insurance policies, and they didn't require us to do certain things, and if a kid got hurt or something,
I think what I do know is that we do require students to have medical insurance. We do provide a low-cost medical insurance brochure to students in their ASB treasurer's offices when they do sign up for athletics. In addition to, if we have students who are unable to pay for medical insurance, we work with community agencies to try to see how we can support that student so they're able to participate.
You hear about so many kids, nowadays. One high school kid just was, I just concerned about them.
Would you like a follow-up answer with your question?
Not at the present time, no.
Okay.
Are our directors comfortable moving this to second reading? Director Lassane? Okay. We'll move that to second reading.
And finally, the proposed revisions to Policy 6100, revenues from local, state, and federal sources, are in response to the passage of engrossed Senate Bill 5023, also known as the Levy Cliff Delay Bill, in early March of 2017. 5203 was amended later in the legislative session by House Bill 2242 regarding basic education funding. The proposed revisions to Policy 6100 reflects the changes necessary to be compliant with the law upon advice from the district's legal counsel. While one would anticipate that delayed analyses of House Bill 2242 might prompt further revision to this policy in the near future, the proposed revisions comply with the law as it is currently written. The Superintendent's Cabinet and District's Legal Counsel have reviewed this proposed policy deletion prior to tonight's meeting.
Yep. Directors, do you have any questions regarding policy 6100?
I had a question. The language says the board shall first determine that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages when it comes to the programs. Wondering exactly how we do that. I mean, this policy seems so specific that you bring it before the board and we analyze it and all that. Do this as part of our budget approval process?
Yes. You get the, what's the system called we put all that into? I never remember the name of it. iGrants. iGrants. You get the iGrant report, essentially with a, it's got the budget in it and the whole description of the program, and then you get my recommendation. And frankly, there are very few of these things that I can't imagine giving you one that I don't think we should participate in. So if you're getting it, it's because either it's a routine activity or it's a great opportunity for us, we think. Why it's coming to you for approval.
Okay. I just was curious as to the process that we.
Well, I don't know that I would describe it as a one single process. These things typically would flow through Cynthia's operation, right? And any program staff who are involved in the delivery or the acquisition of a grant would be doing some analysis, and whichever of the assistant associate deputy superintendents are responsible for that area would bring it to cabinet. And if it's a routine thing, we just renew them every year. I mean, it's like the Perkins grant. You get the Perkins grant every year. We don't really need to think about that very much unless they make a big change in it. The bilingual grant, any of these kinds of grants. Now, we're talking about a couple of others that are possible if we. So we don't give you an example of where we don't do one. If you have tribal lands within your district, which we do not, recognized, that set aside by the federal government, identified, not historic tribal lands. I'm talking about the ones that are part of a reservation. You typically get some impact aid, and that would go to programs aimed at Native American kids. We don't. We looked at some different ways of qualifying, and we would spend essentially all the money on staffing to get the grant. So we're looking at a possible duplication of or joining a consortium of districts who also have very small numbers, and when they put all the numbers together, they can get the application and they might generate enough and share it to, right? But at this point, we can't benefit from that, so we don't bother putting the grant together. If we can change that benefit cost relationship, we might well bring you that for approval. Does that help?
Yeah. I guess. Oh yeah, that helps.
Yeah. I asked about this too because I was worried Larry was giving me another job to do.
Yeah.
But it really is just sort of a redescription without using the terms detailed, because we're frankly not sure what that means. We think when you get an iGrants document, it's pretty detailed of what that grant's for.
Federal government is not known for brevity, so. Yeah. Okay, I think those are all the questions? Okay, we'll move that one to second reading as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Cohn, section 14.0, upcoming agenda items.
Upcoming agenda items, absolutely. Let me move away from the Kendrick report from 2015 December. And yeah, you betcha. And get myself back to that part of the agenda. And look at the special meeting on the 17th of October. That is capital bond planning and replacement educational programs and operation levy planning. So we took the enrollment piece off of that special meeting that we put there when we got together because as we were planning this meeting, it became evident that the options were so critical, so complex and critical in terms of those combinations that we wanted to devote the entire meeting to that and not spend any time on enrollment.
Is that a 90 or 120-minute meeting?
Well, I think we've got them all on your calendar for 120. We try to do them in 90, but I think this one's I think you should plan on 2 hours. And by the way, I talked to the superintendent in Lake Washington today as a result of our conversation. And their process is a bit different. Their timing's different because they don't have to make some of the levy choices that we do. And they don't have the issue of the 150 versus 2,500 and the politics and process and legality surrounding that. So that question is answered. They have, their committee put together their version of the Capital Facilities Committee, put together a 4 bond package program. They run a bond every 4 years. So the amount of processing that they have to do this year leading up to that election is considerably different from ours.
But they ran one in 2016.
Every 4 years. Although this is 18. Well, didn't they fail one and rerun it?
I think they're on the same program we are. Yeah. They failed their 14.
And I think that might have been one of the ones that we looked at when you said, who else is doing it?
Yeah, yeah.
And we said, oh, not very many.
Yeah,
we certainly don't have much
I think
stats
you're
on
right.
it,
They
but yeah,
failed in
yeah.
14 and reran successfully in 16. And
Smaller, similar to what we did. Yeah. So it's a similar situation. We didn't talk about that this morning. Peter, was there anything else from that conversation? Peter and I were in the car going to the Wausau Fall Conference. Anything critical else? It was the 25 issue, right? Yeah, so that they don't have to worry about the 150 versus 2,500 like we do. Yeah, so they're different circumstances. And I think one of her comments was, we have this conversation too from time to time, and we need to remind ourselves that every single school district's circumstances are different. Their AVs, their assessed valuation is different. That produces different calculus, and especially when you've got a very large AV like Lake Washington or a Bellevue, and the amount per thousand is very much smaller than ours. So they're able to actually, because their assessed valuation growth is substantial as well, their rates are coming down. So they can go out with a project. Okay, so you get all that, right? Okay? Okay, so that's the special meeting. That's why it's going to take a long time. The regular meeting is October 24, and we're looking at a summer school report, summer reading program report, several second readings and some more first readings. You've got the fiscal outlook for 2017-20, and a number of other fairly routine consent agenda items. I would note that among those things would be the North Middle School Value Engineering Study and the SCAP resolution, the School Construction Assistance Program resolution. So those are routine activities that we bring you in order to move the capital program along. One of the things that's not going to be part of your consent agenda is conversation about elementary boundary process, the timing and process that we think we ought to be employing. That's it.
Okay.
I'm looking over that way a lot. I'm sorry. I need to go back and forth a little bit more. There is no executive or closed session.
Yeah, we have no executive or closed session this evening, which brings us to section, it might have changed. Yeah. Section 16.01, we are adjourned. Thank you.